They'll never say it out loud. But every woman you meet carries secret thoughts she won't admit to any man. Now here's the problem. Most men live their entire lives blind to these hidden truths. They listen to what women say, and they take those words at face value. She says she wants a nice guy, so you bend over backwards to be nicer. She says she wants consistency, so you make yourself endlessly available. You give, you chase, you explain, and yet somehow she still drifts, still pulls back, still looks for something more. Sound familiar? It's not because you're not good enough. It's because you're playing by the script she tells you, not the script she feels. And those two aren't the same. On the surface, she's polite, agreeable, and reasonable. But underneath, there's an entirely different layer of desire, instinct, and psychology at work. That's the layer she'll never put into words, the one she hides even from herself sometimes. Here's the good news. Once you understand these hidden thoughts, you'll stop being confused, you'll stop being manipulated, and you'll finally see women for who they really are. This isn't about bitterness, it's about clarity. Because when you see the truth, you can choose how to respond, and that choice gives you power. This video is going to pull back the curtain on those secret thoughts. And once you see them, you can't unsee them. Let's get into it. Number 1. What she says versus what she craves. Let's get straight to the point. Women rarely say out loud what they truly want. What comes out of their mouths and what excites them deep down are often two very different things. And this gap between words and cravings is what confuses so many men. On the surface, she'll tell you she wants a nice guy, someone who listens, someone who's dependable, someone who would never make her feel uncomfortable. And sure, that sounds good. But if you look at her actual choices, the story changes. How many times have you seen a woman turn down the perfect gentleman and chase after the man who seems harder to figure out? That's not an accident. That's human psychology at work. Take Tom, a 6-year-old accountant from Ohio. Tom spent years being the safe bet. He always said yes, always compromised, always tried to keep the peace with his partner Laura, who's 44. On paper, Tom was everything she said she wanted. But in reality, Laura admitted to a friend she felt something was missing. She respected him, but she didn't feel the pull, the spark, the excitement. Eventually, she drifted not because Tom wasn't good enough, but because he never tapped into what she craved on a deeper level. Now, compare that with James, 52, from Texas. James wasn't reckless or disrespectful, but he carried himself with a quiet strength. He didn't always explain himself. He wasn't available 24/7. And when Laura met a man like James, she felt that magnetic pull she never felt with Tom. Why? Because James embodied traits that hit her primal wiring strength, unpredictability, and the ability to lead without apology. This isn't about women being liars, it's about women being human. We all have layers. What we say often reflects what feels socially acceptable. What we crave reflects instinct, history, and biology. And the truth is, women are wired to be drawn to strength and certainty. It's not that they don't value kindness, they do. But kindness without backbone doesn't create attraction. Think about it this way. Women want to feel safe, but they also want to feel excited. If you give them safety without excitement, they get bored. If you give them excitement without safety, they get scared. The sweet spot is strength with grounding, the balance most men never master. So when you hear a woman say, "I just want a nice guy," don't take it at face value. Watch what she actually chooses. Listen to the subtle cues, the stories she tells about past lovers, the characters in books and shows she can't stop talking about. 9 times out of 10, those men aren't the perfectly polite yes men. They're men with presence, boundaries, and confidence. For men like Tom, the lesson is clear. Words can mislead you. Cravings never do. If you align yourself with her words alone, you'll end up frustrated. If you understand what truly drives her, you'll stop trying to please and start leading. This is where a Stoic mindset helps. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Instead of clinging to what she says, focus on what you can control, your frame, your standards, your presence. That's what sparks attraction at the deepest level. So here's the truth: stop listening only to the words. Start watching the patterns. Stop giving her everything she says she wants, and start embodying the energy she can't resist. Now put this in the comments: I know the truth. Because the man who sees the difference between words and cravings is the man she can't walk away from. And don't go anywhere, because in the next part we'll uncover how her need for safety on the surface hides a much wilder craving underneath. Number 2. Safe on the surface, dangerous underneath. On the outside, women project safety. They show you the polite smile, the careful words, the socially acceptable version of themselves. They tell you they're looking for stability, a man who treats them right, someone who makes them feel secure. And yes, that's part of the story. But what most men never realize is that beneath that surface of safety lies something far more dangerous, far more primal. Deep down, women crave intensity. They crave the man who can stir emotions. They can't control the one who makes them feel alive. This doesn't mean they want chaos or abuse, not at all. It means they're wired to seek a balance, the stability of safety on the surface with the thrill of unpredictability underneath. That tension is what keeps their attraction burning. Here's the problem for men. Too many guys only deliver the surface. They're safe, predictable, available, and agreeable. But because they never tap into the deeper current, they end up boring her. She may respect them, but she doesn't feel the pull. Respect without desire doesn't keep her close. The truth is, women live in two worlds. The one they show the public, calm, rational, reasonable, and the one inside, emotional, instinctive, hungry for something more. If you only engage the surface, you'll never reach her at the core. The Stoics understood this paradox. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." That applies here. On the surface, she imagines what's safe, what's expected, what society approves of. But in reality, her body and instincts chase something she may never admit out loud. When you understand this, you stop being fooled by her words and start paying attention to her actions, her patterns, her hidden signals. Think about the women who say they want a man who doesn't play games. Then watch them gravitate toward men who keep them guessing. Think about the women who say they just want peace. Then notice how they light up when a man challenges them, excites them, makes them feel something they can't control. The surface says one thing. The underneath reveals the truth. This is why men who lead with calm, strength, and quiet unpredictability win. They provide the safety she needs on the outside, but they also hint at the danger she craves on the inside. They're not reckless, but they're not boring. They're the balance. And here's the part most men don't want to hear. If you only ever give her safety, she'll look for danger somewhere else. Not because she wants to betray you, but because she needs that spark to feel alive. If you can be both the safe harbor and the storm, you'll never have to worry about her drifting away. So don't just accept her surface words at face value. Learn to see the layers. Understand that the smile, the politeness, the "I just want stability" speech is only half the truth. The real truth lies underneath, in the emotions she doesn't admit, the fantasies. She doesn't confess the cravings. She doesn't say out loud. Now put this in the comments: I see beneath. Because the man who sees beneath the surface is the man who owns her desire. And don't go anywhere, because in the next part, we'll dive into the hidden double life every woman lives, and why ignoring it will cost you more than you think. Number 3. The double life she hides. Here's something most men never want to admit. Every woman lives two lives. The first one is the version she shows the world. The polished image, the social mask, the words that sound right and proper. She'll tell friends, co-workers, and even you, the man she's with, exactly what fits the script of being respectable, responsible, and safe. But then there's the second life, the private one she rarely talks about. That's where her secret thoughts live. That's where her hidden desires shape her choices, even when she doesn't admit them. This double life explains so much of the confusion men feel. On the surface, she says she wants stability, but behind closed doors, she still craves the man who makes her heart race. Out in public, she's polite, calm, and collected. In private, her thoughts may be darker, more chaotic, even contradictory. And if you don't understand this duality, you'll always be blindsided by her behavior. Take Bill, 48, from Chicago. Bill thought his wife Sarah, 45, was exactly who she appeared to be: a devoted mother, a caring partner, someone who valued nothing more than peace and routine. And that was true, but it wasn't the whole story. Bill ignored the hints of Sarah's restlessness, the subtle ways she tested boundaries, the comments she made about other men when she thought he wasn't listening. In her private life, Sarah wrestled with feelings she couldn't say out loud. Bill dismissed them as just talk, and because of that, he missed the signals until the marriage cracked. Now compare that with David, 51, from Florida. David didn't snoop, didn't accuse, didn't control, but he paid attention. He noticed the subtle contradictions, how his partner, Melissa, 49, said she wanted calm evenings, but lit up when he surprised her with something bold and unexpected. David understood she lived two lives, the life she told him about and the one she felt but didn't always reveal. Instead of ignoring that truth, he leaned into it. He kept the relationship grounded on the surface while sparking excitement underneath. The result: Melissa felt safe with him but also alive with him, and that balance kept her close. The double life doesn't mean women are deceptive by nature. It means they're human. Men live double lives too, one for the world, one for themselves. But here's the difference: women are often better at hiding the second one. And unless you understand that, you'll always feel confused when her words and actions don't line up. So what's the lesson? Don't just listen to what she says. Pay attention to how she moves, what excites her, what makes her pull back, what makes her lean in. Recognize that the surface version of her is only half the picture. The private version is the one that truly drives her. And if you want to connect with her on a real level, you have to see both. This doesn't mean prying or accusing. It means being aware. It means leading in a way that gives her both safety and excitement, both respect and desire. When you do that, she doesn't feel the need to hide as much, because you've created the space where her two lives can finally meet. Now put this in the comments: I see both. Because the man who sees both lives is the man who understands her more than she even understands herself. And don't go anywhere, because in the next part we'll uncover the silent resentment women carry when men fail to recognize what's really going on. Number 4. Silent resentment you never see. Here's the hard truth: most men never notice until it's too late. Resentment doesn't usually scream, it simmers. Women rarely sit you down and tell you outright, "I'm losing respect for you." Instead, it builds quietly, hidden behind polite smiles and small words, until one day you wake up and realize the connection is gone. This resentment starts when a man fails to command respect. It happens when he ignores boundaries, when he tolerates disrespect, or when he lets her lead every decision. On the surface, everything looks fine. She doesn't argue much. She doesn't openly complain. But underneath, she's keeping score. Every time you fold, every time you give in too easily, every time you avoid standing up for yourself, she makes a mental note. The danger is that men mistake silence for peace. You think she's not arguing, so everything's good. But silence doesn't always mean harmony. Sometimes silence means disconnection. Sometimes silence means contempt growing under the surface. The Stoics warned about this. Epictetus wrote, "What upsets people is not things themselves, but their judgments about the things." She might not tell you directly, but her judgment is always running. When she sees weakness, when she senses you lack boundaries, she judges you for it. That silent judgment slowly turns into resentment. And by the time you finally notice, it's already too late. Here's what makes it even trickier. Women often resent men not for what they do wrong, but for what they fail to do. They resent the absence of strength, the absence of leadership, the absence of direction. You might think you're doing everything right by being agreeable and easygoing, but in her mind you're failing to be the man she can trust to lead. This is why so many relationships end with the man feeling blindsided. He thought everything was fine because she didn't complain. He thought she was happy because there wasn't open conflict. But beneath the surface, resentment had been building for months, even years. So, what's the lesson here? Pay attention not just to her words, but to her energy. Notice the small changes in tone, the subtle withdrawal of affection, the way she stops looking at you with the same admiration. These are the clues that silent resentment is at work. And the only way to stop it is to re-establish respect. That means holding your frame, standing on your principles, and refusing to tolerate what erodes your value. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." That's the solution. Don't try to talk her out of resentment with explanations or apologies. Show her strength. Live by standards. Be the man she can respect again. Here's the challenge. Once resentment builds too far, it's almost impossible to reverse. That's why awareness is so important. Don't wait for her to explode or walk away. Catch the signs early. Show up as the man she can look up to before it's too late. Now put this in the comments, I command respect. Because the man who commands respect never has to fear silent resentment. And if you're serious about mastering this, consider joining the channel membership. That's where I share the advanced frameworks deeper. Stoic strategies, detailed examples, and private lessons I don't post publicly. If you want the inside training that keeps you ahead of these silent traps, the membership is where you'll find it. And don't go anywhere, because in the next part, we'll uncover the forbidden fantasies she'll never confess and why understanding them changes everything. Number 5. Fantasies she'll never confess. Every man needs to hear this. What she fantasizes about and what she tells you are two very different things. Women have entire inner worlds that they will never fully reveal, especially to the men they're closest to. And it's not because they don't trust you. It's because those fantasies, if spoken out loud, could shift the balance of power in the relationship. Think about it. On the surface, she'll say she wants stability, comfort, and safety. And yes, part of her does. But deep inside, she has fantasies of being swept up in passion, of being dominated by strength, of experiencing something unpredictable that makes her feel alive again. These are desires she'll rarely put into words because she doesn't want to be judged. Take Mark, a 42-year-old accountant. He's been married to Laura, 39, for over a decade. Mark works hard, provides a stable home, and never lets the bills pile up. On paper, he's doing everything right. But Laura finds herself daydreaming at work, not about leaving Mark, but about the thrill she doesn't feel anymore. She fantasizes about being pursued with intensity, about a man who doesn't ask for permission but knows what he wants. She'll never tell Mark that directly because she doesn't want to hurt him, but the gap between what she craves and what she admits is real. Here's the thing, these fantasies aren't necessarily about other men. They're about feelings. They're about the raw, unfiltered emotions that come from tension, mystery, and desire. When a man becomes too predictable, too safe, she stops feeling those emotions and her imagination fills the void. The Stoics understood this paradox. Seneca once said, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality." In the same way, women suffer from the gap between reality and imagination. Their fantasies are not a betrayal of you, they are a reminder of the feelings they still want to experience. The mistake many men make is believing that fulfilling her checklist of what she says she wants is enough. But if you only give her safety, if you only give her predictability, she'll start chasing those emotions somewhere else, even if only in her mind. What she secretly craves is a man who can be both the rock she leans on and the storm that shakes her. For Mark, the shift came when he stopped asking Laura what she wanted for dinner every single night and started making decisions. He began surprising her with plans, showing up with confidence instead of seeking her constant approval. Slowly, he noticed a change. The sparkle in her eyes returned, the laughter came back, and her affection grew stronger. He didn't read her fantasies out loud. He simply embodied them through action. Here's the truth. She doesn't want to confess her fantasies because once they're spoken, they lose their power. What she really wants is for you to sense them without her saying a word, to read the silence, the subtle signals, and to act like a man who knows what she desires without asking for permission. That's where attraction deepens. So what should you do? Don't try to get her to confess everything. Don't interrogate her about her fantasies. Instead, embrace your role as the man who keeps her guessing, the man who brings excitement into her life, the man who reminds her she's still alive. Now type this in the comments, I bring the fire. Because when you embody her hidden fantasies, you don't just hold her attention, you own it. And stay with me because next we'll uncover something even more dangerous, how her unspoken resentment can quietly turn into disconnection and why most men never see it coming until it's too late. Number 6. Tests that expose your frame. Here's something most men miss. Every woman you deal with will test you. Not because she wants to see you fail, but because she wants to see if you're as solid as you claim to be. Women test your frame, your ability to stand on your principles, to remain calm under pressure, and to keep your emotions in check. These tests come in many forms. Sometimes it's a small, sarcastic comment to see if you'll get defensive. Other times it's her questioning your decisions to see if you'll fold and backtrack. Or maybe it's her flirting lightly with someone else in front of you, just to watch how you react. On the surface, these look like games, but in reality, they're measurements of your strength. A man without a frame reacts emotionally, he argues. He explains himself too much. He tries to win her approval instead of holding his ground. And every time he does that, her respect slips away a little more. The Stoics had this figured out long before modern psychology gave it a name. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's the essence of frame. You can't control her tests, but you can control your response. Think about it when she questions your decision. Do you panic and change course? Or do you calmly stand by what you've chosen without needing to justify yourself endlessly? When she throws attitude, do you meet it with anger? Or do you remain unshaken, showing her that nothing she does can rattle you? Every test is an opportunity. Fail it, and she loses confidence in you. Pass it, and her attraction grows, often without her even realizing why. Because deep down, a woman wants a man whose center cannot be moved. She wants to know that when life gets messy, when emotions run high, you won't crumble. Here's the trap most men fall into. They see tests as disrespect. They get angry, frustrated, or they complain about games. But the truth is, tests are natural. They're not about malice, they're about survival. A woman tests because she needs to know the man she's with can hold steady when it matters. The key is learning how to embrace them without hostility. When she challenges you, smile. When she pushes, don't push back, stand firm without overreacting. That balance between calmness and conviction is what makes her feel both safe and excited. Epictetus captured this mindset perfectly. It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. That's what she's looking for, not perfection, but composure. Not endless explanations, but certainty. Now here's the hidden benefit when you pass these tests consistently. The tests themselves begin to fade. She no longer needs to poke and prod to see what you're made of, because she already knows. Instead of trying to expose weakness, she relaxes into your strength. That's when attraction deepens. Not because you begged for it, not because you over-explained yourself, but because you proved yourself through silence, steadiness, and conviction. So the next time she throws a test your way, don't see it as a threat. See it as an invitation to show her you're not like the rest, that you're a man who doesn't break. Now put this in the comments, I stand firm. Because once you hold your frame, you no longer fear her tests, you welcome them. And stay with me, because in the next part, we'll uncover something far more subtle, the quiet resentments she hides, and why ignoring them is the fastest way to lose her respect for good. Number 7. Why chasing kills her desire. Here's the paradox. Most men never see coming the harder you chase a woman, the faster her desire for you dies. You might think persistence shows love, dedication, or seriousness. But in her psychology, chasing signals weakness. It tells her you're desperate, that you need her more than she needs you. And once she feels that imbalance, attraction fades. Let's make this real with an example. James, 45, divorced a few years ago, recently started dating Emily, 40. At first, things were exciting: dinners, laughter, late-night conversations. But as James grew attached, he began texting her constantly. Good morning, good night, checking in throughout the day. At first, Emily responded warmly, but slowly, her replies got shorter. Her availability shrank, and her energy cooled off. Why? Because James's chasing flipped the script. Instead of her investing in the connection, she felt smothered. His constant pursuit told her he had no other options, that his world revolved around her. That's not desire. That's pressure. Women don't fall for men who put them on a pedestal. They fall for men who have standards, who move with purpose, who can walk away if respect isn't returned. The moment you start chasing, you surrender that frame. You place her above yourself, and she loses the very thing that made her curious in the first place. The Stoics would call this attachment a trap. Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." When you chase, you place her choices outside your control at the center of your life. You stop being free. And the moment you stop being free, you stop being attractive. Think about it this way: women want to be chosen, but they don't want to be smothered. Desire thrives on space. It thrives on the uncertainty of not knowing exactly where you stand. When you remove that mystery by flooding her with attention, you kill the tension that fuels attraction. Men often chase because they're afraid of losing her. But here's the truth: you don't lose a woman by not chasing. You lose her by showing that you're replaceable, predictable, and too easy to win over. Ironically, the strength to pull back, to give her room to pursue you, is what makes her invest deeper. Emily didn't lose interest in James because he wasn't good enough. She lost interest because he stopped being a challenge. He gave her certainty too soon, and certainty without effort feels cheap. So what's the solution? Stop thinking that effort equals value. Instead, focus on your purpose, your growth, your standards. Give her a chance to lean in, to wonder where she stands with you. That's when desire grows, when she feels she has something to prove, something to earn. Here's the rule: don't chase, lead. Build a life so solid that she wants to be part of it. And if she doesn't, you're still whole, still strong, still moving forward. That's the energy that draws women in and keeps them hooked. Now drop this in the comments: I don't chase. Because the man who doesn't chase is the man who gets chased. And stick with me, because next we're going to break down one of the most powerful shifts a man can make: the art of walking away. And once you master it, you'll understand why distance often creates more attraction than closeness ever could. Number 8. Scarcity makes her want more. Here's a reality that cuts through all the noise: what's rare is valuable, and what's everywhere is taken for granted. The same law that makes gold more precious than sand applies to desire. When you make yourself scarce, when your time, your attention, and your presence are not given out cheaply, she starts to want more of you. But here's the trap most men fall into. They think being available all the time shows commitment. They believe that responding instantly, always being ready to hang out and dropping everything for her will make her feel secure. In truth, it does the opposite. When you're always there, she starts to see you as common, as predictable, as something she doesn't have to work for. And nothing kills desire faster than certainty without effort. Scarcity isn't about playing games. It's about showing that your life has depth beyond her, that your energy is invested in your purpose, your growth, your mission. A man who is constantly busy improving himself, building his path, and pursuing excellence naturally becomes scarce. And that scarcity makes his presence more valuable. The Stoics understood this principle well. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The value of a man is no greater than the value of his ambitions." If your ambitions are small, if your entire life revolves around her, your value shrinks in her eyes. But if your ambitions are vast, if you dedicate yourself to something bigger than her, then your time with her becomes precious. It's not because you withhold artificially, it's because you're genuinely living at a higher standard. Think about it. If she knows she can have your attention anytime, anywhere, she won't cherish it. But if she knows that when you give her your time, it's carved out from a life full of purpose, suddenly it matters more. Your scarcity turns every interaction into something she values, because it's not guaranteed, it's earned. This is why distance often creates more passion than constant closeness. Desire thrives in space. It thrives in uncertainty. It thrives when she has to wonder, what is he doing? Who is he becoming? Does he still choose me? That uncertainty fuels her pursuit. Scarcity doesn't mean ignoring her. It doesn't mean playing childish games or making her feel neglected. It means not being consumed by her. It means showing through your actions that you're a man with a mission and that she is invited into your world, not the center of it. When you embody scarcity the right way, you don't have to demand her respect or her desire. It comes naturally because she feels the difference between a man who gives himself away freely and a man who protects his value. Seneca once said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." The same applies to relationships. If you crave her attention constantly, you appear poor in spirit. But if you are content within yourself, if you give sparingly and deliberately, you appear rich, and she will always crave more from you. So the question you have to ask yourself is this: are you making yourself common by being too available, or are you creating value by being scarce? Remember, what she works for, she respects. What she gets too easily, she takes for granted. Now type this in the comments: I protect my value. Because the man who lives with scarcity is the man who never gets overlooked. And don't go anywhere, because next we'll unlock the secret force that keeps her attention long-term, the power of boundaries, and why setting them sparks more desire than giving her everything she asks for. Number 9. Options keep her restless. Here's something you need to understand about female psychology. Options are both her comfort and her curse. The modern world gives women more options than ever through social media, dating apps, constant attention from men online, and the natural pull they have in real life. These options make her feel wanted, but they also make her restless. Take David, 48, a successful contractor. He's dating Sarah, 41, who's attractive, social, and active on Instagram. Sarah gets dozens of likes and comments every time she posts. Nothing extreme, just enough to keep her ego fed. David noticed early on that while she enjoyed their time together, she also kept checking her phone, smiling at messages, and scrolling through attention from other men. David felt uneasy, so he overcompensated. He started giving her more attention, more reassurance, more chasing, hoping to outshine the competition. But the result was the opposite. The more he tried to fight her options, the less she respected him. Why? Because women don't respect men who panic over options. Options are part of her world. What she's really watching is how you handle them. Do you get insecure, jealous, and needy? Or do you stand unshaken, grounded in your value, knowing she chooses to be with you because you're different from the rest? Here's the truth. Options don't destroy relationships. Weak men do. A man with frame, with confidence, doesn't care how many men like her photos. He knows attention isn't the same as desire, and that desire without action is meaningless. He doesn't compete with noise. He competes with himself, always leveling up. And that self-assurance makes her restless because she realizes she's the one who has to work to keep him. The Stoics spoke to this exact strength of mind. Epictetus said wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Translate that into relationships, and it means this: you don't need her options to vanish. You need to want less validation from her. The less you need, the more powerful you become. David's mistake wasn't that Sarah had options. His mistake was acting like those options made her more valuable than him. The shift came when he stopped chasing and returned to his mission. He started training again, reconnecting with old friends and pouring himself into the business he had neglected. Instead of checking on Sarah's phone, he let her check on his time. Suddenly, the dynamic flipped. Sarah became the one asking, "When can I see you?" Options might have kept her restless, but David's strength made her chase stability in him. Here's what most men miss: women will always have options. That's not the problem. The problem is when you act like her options outweigh your value. The man who knows his worth doesn't compete for her attention. He makes her compete for his presence. So if you're worried about her options, stop focusing on what she has and start focusing on what you bring. Build your value. Strengthen your frame. Live with purpose. Because the more solid you are, the less her options matter. In fact, the more her options will highlight just how rare you are. Now type this in the comments: I am the prize. Because the man who is the prize never fears options. He lets them make him shine brighter. And stay tuned, because in the final part, we'll uncover the ultimate weapon that makes a man untouchable. The kind of self-respect that not only keeps her desire alive, but also makes you immune to her games forever. Number 10. Lead or lose her respect. Every man reaches this point eventually. If you don't lead, you lose her. Not her attention for a moment, not her affection for a week. You lose her respect permanently. And once a woman's respect is gone, attraction follows right behind it. Leadership in relationships isn't about controlling her barking orders or trying to dominate every move. It's about direction. It's about showing through your actions that you know where you're going and that you're strong enough to carry both of you when life gets messy. Women crave the presence of a man who leads because leadership signals stability, certainty, and strength. Here's what happens when you don't lead. She starts to feel like she has to take charge. At first, she might do it reluctantly just to keep things moving. But the more she steps into that role, the more she sees you as passive, indecisive, and weak. It doesn't matter how much you love her, how much effort you give, or how much comfort you provide. If she feels like she's leading, she cannot respect you fully. Think about it: how many men let their girlfriends or wives decide every plan, every financial choice, every direction for the future? They tell themselves it's being considerate, but deep down it's fear of stepping up. And that fear is the fastest way to push her away. The Stoics had an unshakable grasp on this principle. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A man should stand erect, not be kept erect by others." In other words, don't wait for her to give you direction. Stand on your own. Show her and yourself that you have a vision bigger than the moment. Leadership doesn't mean you ignore her input. A strong man listens, considers, and values her perspective. But once the decision is made, he owns it. He takes responsibility even when things go wrong. That's what separates a man she respects from a man she tolerates. The problem is, many men today fear leadership because they confuse it with being controlling. They've been told that taking the lead is toxic, that it pushes women away. But the reality is the opposite. Women don't want to carry the weight of direction forever. They want a partner strong enough to share it. And when you refuse that role, you burden her with something she never wanted. Here's the twist: women will test you to see if you can lead. She'll challenge your decisions, question your direction, or act like she doesn't care what happens. But these aren't signs that leadership isn't needed. They're signs she's waiting to see if you're strong enough to step up. When you lead with confidence, when you take responsibility, something shifts. Her walls soften, her guard lowers. And instead of feeling like she has to mother you or guide you, she feels safe enough to be feminine, to lean into the dynamic that fuels attraction. But when you avoid leadership, you create resentment. She might stay physically present, but mentally, she checks out. She starts daydreaming about men who do lead, men who make bold choices, men who carry themselves with certainty. And eventually she drifts away, not because she didn't care, but because she couldn't admire you anymore. Leadership is the line. Cross it with weakness, and you lose her respect. Embrace it with strength, and you secure not just her attention, but her admiration. So the choice is simple: lead or lose her. Because in the end, a man without direction is a man without respect. And a man without respect is a man without attraction. So here's the bottom line. You've just seen the hidden truths that most men never hear, the very dynamics that decide whether she respects you or forgets you. And it all comes back to one thing. When you lead yourself with strength, clarity, and self-respect, she follows naturally. Lose that and you lose everything. If this video gave you clarity, make sure you hit subscribe right now so you don't miss tomorrow's lesson. We drop new content every single day, breaking down the psychology and Stoic principles that keep men in control. And if you're ready to go deeper, join the membership. That's where I share the advanced strategies, private lessons, detailed breakdowns, and practical tools that don't appear here publicly. Inside, you'll get the training that separates average men from men who live unshakable. Subscribe to the channel, join the membership, step into the role you were meant to play. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.